Hi everyone, in this video we'll talk about Rotational Strength Matrix or RSM in short. This matrix of visualization will help you see if a stock or index is outperforming its reference and its momentum status all in one place. It's quite powerful once you see how it helps, and I can bet once you see how it is being made and what value does it add, you'll be using it on a daily and a weekly basis. Now, before we deep dive into its theory, how this works, how to understand the quadrants, let me showcase the output so that we get a feel of what we are dealing with and how the tool actually will help you. Let's begin. So we are on the page for NSE indexes RSM. This view is showing you all the indexes available in Google Finance for National Stock Exchange. Now, I do realize some of the indexes might not be available here, but we are using Google Finance because it's easy to use and it's freely available in Google Sheets, right? So what you're seeing on your screen is rotational strength matrix. There are four quadrants. Mainly, one will be outperforming, one will be cooling off, one will be strengthening, and one will be underperforming. Unlike traditional charts that link strength and momentum to a single time frame, this RSM will also let you change the time frames for both x-axis and the y-axis. Now, what do you have on the x-axis? You have the relative strength, which means how big an outperformance or underperformance is your stock or index giving to the reference. On your screen right now, the reference is Nifty 50. So I can see based on 14th March, which is Friday, uh, Nifty Bank has outperformed Nifty 50, right? And I can see that as a scatter plot on the visualization as well. Now, why is that the top right quadrant is the outperformance one? Well, because if we look at the scales on the x-axis, we see that if it's on the right, it's outperforming, and if it's on the left, it's underperforming. Similarly, if we see it on the y-axis, which is the momentum or rate of change, we see that something which has a higher rate of change is in a higher momentum, or when something is on the negative end of rate of change, that means the momentum is dying down. So this matrix actually helps to give you a two-dimensional or a very critical piece of information in the markets that you cannot get just by looking at a normal candlestick chart. The flexibility of adding time frames to both x-axis and y-axis makes it a really powerful analysis and educational tool, which helps you to visualize how market dynamics shift over time and giving deeper insights along with it. Now that you have seen how the output looks like, we can deep dive into its theory, some other definitions, what the quadrants are, what applications this might be useful on this. And then we'll deep dive into how to make this so that you can use it on your daily basis. And just by the way, it's not restricted only to the indexes that you see on your screen. You can even make this for the full 50 stocks in Nifty 50 and just see how beautiful this visualization is. Just by seeing this snapshot, I automatically know which stocks in Nifty 50 are outperforming with momentum or are cooling off or are underperforming the Nifty 50 index. So the permutations and combinations that you can apply here are endless. The power you get with the visualization is too awesome to begin with that once you get a glimpse of this, you will want it no matter what. So let's start with the basics. What does RSM stand for? RSM stands for Rotational Strength Matrix. This graph tells us with respect to a benchmark, that is in Nifty 50, most cases, how have the other sectors performed. If Nifty Auto or Nifty Bank is outperforming Nifty 50, we'll get to know that. If it is underperforming Nifty 50, we'll get to know that as well. This graph visually shows us uh, sectors or indexes that are outperforming, cooling off, underperforming, or are strengthening. Now, as the name suggests, right, you can just understand what we can analyze from this graph. You'll automatically get to know who are the outperformance candidates, who are strengthening or may become outperformance candidates, who are cooling off, may become underperforming candidates. And this gives you a lot of things to play around with and understand the markets if you keep on reading this chart day over day. Okay. Now, what is the application that RSM is used for? Just like I've mentioned in the introduction in the showcase, there can be many things that you can do. Now, how do I generally do it? How I would recommend we at least start with is that you just narrow down the sectors that you see where the action is happening. Now, when I say action, it can be both on the positive side and on the negative side, right? You check the RSM, you looked into strengthening and outperforming stocks. This way, you know stocks which are already leading the index or the ones which are strengthening and may lead it later on, right? That way, you automatically filter or scan the market in one visualization. If you use candlestick charts, you will have to comb through 50 charts for Nifty 50, or at least 20 charts for all the indexes that are available to understand which index or which stock is outperforming its reference. Now, let's say you are also noticing an underperforming sector. You already know, like Nifty Realty or Nifty PSU banks are underperforming the Nifty 50 index, right? Even in their underperformance, you can then look at the stocks which are resisting the decline on a candlestick chart. So your starting point would be an RSM visualization. You'll see a sector which is underperforming, and then within that sector, you look at stocks which are not declining even if the index is doing bad. That means when the index recovers and when it comes under the strengthening quadrant, the stocks which are not declining may be the ones who become the future leaders. So you can also look at from that angle, and that's why it gives you both the sides of the market, not just one, right? What are the components of an RSM chart? Let's start with the axes first, right? The x-axis and the y-axis. X-axis shows relative strength. Now, as the name indicates, it just tells which stock or which index is outperforming or underperforming. If my index Nifty Auto is giving me an 8% return over the past 10 days and Nifty 50 gave a 2% return, I can clearly see that Nifty Auto has outperformed. This scale just gives me outperformance or underperformance, and it is categorized as relative strength. Now, in y-axis, now it is a derivative of relative strength. Now, don't get confused when you heard the word derivative. It just means that this rate of change, now Nifty Auto became 8% in the last 10 days, right? And Nifty 50 gave only 2%. Now, when this 8% happened, what was the rate of change day by day? Week by week, right? This is what will tell you momentum. Okay, is the change happening rapidly or is the change happening slow and steadily, right? So the more rapid the change, the higher the momentum, right? And the more slow the change, lower the momentum. So it's called a rate of change. That's why it says momentum is defined as rate of change of observed strength. So the strength you observe, if it's changing faster, it has a higher rate of change. If it's changing slower, it's a lower rate of change. Now, the sector names, just to summarize before we deep dive into creating it, the first sector is called outperforming. This will be the sectors who are performing better than the benchmark and are in momentum because their rate of change will be high and their relative strength will be high. Now, second quadrant is called cooling off. This will be the sector who are performing better than the benchmark, but recently or in your selected time frame have a loss of momentum. I mean, it's maybe going sideways and is not deciding on a direction right now. The bottom left quadrant would be underperforming, the sectors who are performing worse than the benchmark and don't even have momentum. So they might be in a downtrend, or they are not showing any clear signs of strengthening or overperforming in the recent time duration selected. And the final quadrant is the strengthening quadrant, where we get to know that there is some action happening in these sectors or in the stocks because there is some strength, there is some momentum in them, but they are still not outperforming the reference index. Now, whether they do outperform or not is something that we'll have to see in the future, but at least you get to know what's happening in those stocks or what's happening in that sector based on your time duration. Cool. So now that we are done with the introduction and the definitions, now we'll deep dive into how can we create. this beautiful visualization that you see on your screen for NSE indexes and even for Nifty 50. If you want to add 50 stocks on your visualization, we can totally do that. It's not very intensive, it's very smooth, and it refreshes very fast as well. So in the next section, we'll deep dive into its backend, the backend data, and we'll go it in formula by formula so that you can create it while you watch this video on your end. Okay, so now we have to deep dive into the backend that powers this beautiful visualization. Now, using this is another animal, but creating this is something that once you do it, you'll be so proud of yourself that you'll be like, I want to use this tool day in, day out, right? So let's not waste any time. Let's deep dive into the engine that's creating this beautiful visualization. Now, let's start with this visualization. We want to get Google Finance function in it immediately, right? If you haven't used Google Finance before, I'll give you the link to the playlist or the basics of Google Finance, which I have recorded earlier. You can use that and then jump to this video later on. But for the sake of continuity, I'll explain it in a very brief format as well. We want to look only index NSEs, and I only want the cell C3. C3 is basically the benchmark, right? Because this column is called benchmark. So I want the index NSE Nifty 50. I want all the columns that Google Finance can give me, and I want it within the time frame of the last 1 year. So it's 14th March 2024 till 14th March 2025, right? So I get that. Now, if I just use this function, I'll get all columns, right? Because that's what I've entered. But for the sake of my exercise, I only need close columns and date columns, and that too in a sorted format. I want the most recent date to be appearing on the top, right? So if I want the most recent date to be appearing on the top, I need to sort the data in a particular matter. So I sort this Google Finance data set. I select which column I have to sort it on. My column is first because the first column contains a date, and I want to sort it in a descending order. So it's a false. If it's a true, it would be ascending. So it is ascending. If it's true, it will sort in an ascending format. If it's false, it will sort in a descending format. Cool. I've sorted it. Now I want to only select two columns. I want to select the date column and the close column. So for that, I'll use a query just like we use it in SQL. If you haven't used SQL, don't worry, it's practically just English. And I'll make it even more easy for you in this Google Finance lecture. So you select column 1 and column 5 because these are date and close columns. And you only select the number of rows required as per the user input. So if you see this cell, it is dynamic based on what you select in the main RSM sheet, right? So I add this query to this entire function, and you see it's $9. $9 is the very same thing as this query. So when I pass this query through the sorted function or the sorted data set, I get the two columns in the appropriate sorting format that I need. That's all, right? If you understand the last 3 minutes of this deep dive into the formula, your life is sorted to create this visualization. Now we move ahead. I know what happened in this last 20 prices, which is on a weekly time frame. So it's last 20 weeks, right? Now, if I do that, I need to start at some place, right? I need to create an index. How will I know what is the outperformance done? Right? So I start at 100. So the first price that I get is 100. Then after a week, that index became 99.56, indicating a decline. And we can see the decline happened. It moved from 24,964 to 24,854, right? So 100 became 99.56. If you remember what we used to study in school, it's just a basic unitary method. Whatever percentage dropped from one cell to the other, I transferred it the very same from one cell to the other. And if we look at the last 20 weeks, we can clearly see that the benchmark has gone from 100 to 90, right? So that will certainly help. Now, why did I make it a normalized benchmark? If I full size this column, you'll see it's called benchmark price normalized. Why am I doing it? The reason for that is if you look at, let's say, closing prices for Nifty Bank or for Nifty 50, right? You can clearly see that they are not on the same scales. Nifty Bank is at 48,000, Nifty 50 is at 22,000. So taking ratios between the two will be a bit tricky, right? And if taking ratios between the two is a bit tricky, it will be a tough to explain why we are doing what we are doing, right? So the purposes of this lecture and the purposes of this video, I've made sure that I have normalized so that everybody can understand what's happening at the back end, right? Now, similarly, the way I normalize this price for Nifty 50, if I just use the same formula and run the same query for my other index and do the same normalization for this other index, I'll get the same things, right? But for a different index. So, in the same time where Nifty 50 went from 100 to a 90, Nifty Bank went from 100 to a 94. I can clearly see it outperformed. But how do we measure it for it to go on a visualization scale, right? That's the game. And you can and if you want to deep dive into the formulas of how we are getting this, you can deep dive into it. I can pause the video, or you can pause the video. I can zoom in here and you can see how the formulas are being calculated. But at the end of the day, it is just a unitary method being applied that helps you transfer percentage gains on an index of 100. Okay. Now we come to the meat of this calculation. It's column H and column I. Now, why is this the meat of the calculation? Let's look at the formulas. The formula in column H12, it's G12 by D12. Now, D is Nifty 50, it's the reference. Okay, that's cool. I'm dividing the normalized closing price of my index, dividing it with the reference index. So I'm doing 94.77 divided by 90 and I get 1.05. This is my x-axis. If the number is greater than 1, it is outperforming. If the number is lower than 1, it is underperforming. Now, this is my x-axis. Cool. Perfect. How is the rate of change being calculated? Okay, let's move to I12. Now, this is nothing but just a change between the last two cells. So if the number dropped from 1.07 to 1.05, right, what was the rate of change? Cool. So the rate of change was minus 1.59. Similarly, when it gained from 1.05 to 1.07, it was 1.69. And you can keep on checking the formula for each rate of change. Now, do notice that rate of change will be one less than the relative strength scores available, because to have a rate of change, I need to have a value below it. So if I don't have a value below this number, how will I find a rate of change? So the rate of change will always be one less than the amount of relative strength available. Cool? Cool. So this is the calculation matrix that we have at the backend. That's it. Now I'll show you how do we take averages of these numbers. Now, if I just tell you there's 1.05 and minus 1.59, and then 1 week before it was 1.69, and now the rate of change has gone to 1 - 1.59 from 1.69. Now this is very volatile. I can show you a graph and say it was 1.69 momentum before and now it's 1.59. Like, it just changed from top to bottom in 1 week. That is not something which we should, calculate on. The way we need to do it is we need to take averages. What is the average in a certain duration? Cool. Now, how do we take averages? You can just take averages for these 20 cells and you can see the average you'll find here is 1.04. Okay. So you're getting 1.04 average and you're getting for 20 cells. Now, at the same time, if you want momentum for the last 5 days, you should remember I said whatever is the relative strength, rate of change has to be -1. So if you're looking for 5 days, rate of change has to be for 4 days, because the fifth day we are eliminating from the calculations. So based on that number, the rate of change is 0.26, right? Now we have averages here and we can plot this on the graph. So these are the final numbers which we'll plot on the scatter plot. Now, These formulas that you see on your screen, I'll zoom in. You might feel it's a bit complicated, so I'll urge you to go and search what offset is, how is it used in a dynamic formula. All this formula is doing, it's just seeing what's the input in here. So let's say my RS time frame was 10 and ROC time frame was 5. It's just taking this 10 out of here, right? Going to indexes data, my data is getting filtered here and the averages are getting calculated as per that. So I need averages for 10. My average here would be 0.99 and my uh, last four ROCs will be 0.26. So it's still the same, right? But if I change my RSM to be 10, I need the time frame to be 10 for rate of change as well. I'll see the number change to minus 0.01, which is accurate as per the sheet. So offset is just making sure that the average is dynamic as per the user input, right? And the way I'm doing this is by using the value and left functions. And you can also try it at your end. It's a really, really pretty way to calculate dynamic averages and then take this output and plot it on an RSM graph. I generally used 20 and 5 to know what's happening. And the moment you do that, your calculation updates. Cool. Now let's move to see how can we scale this visualization. I only showed you for Nifty Bank, right? But I have 15 other indexes other than Nifty 50 in this. So that means I'm doing the same calculation 15 times, right? And you are bang on. Yes, I am doing that. But I'm not calculating the benchmark normalized score again and again. I mean, why should I do that? I have this normalized score in column D. I'll just divide every normalized score I get for an index by column D and then calculate column H and I separately, right? And this is exactly what is being done. So, new security, Nifty Financial Service. Same way, same function, query, same query, select column 1, column 5, limit 20, right? Same way of normalization, same division with D12, which is Nifty 50, and the same way to calculate rate of change. And the same inputs to calculate the average relative strength and the average rate of change. You repeat this for Nifty Private Bank, you repeat this for Nifty PSU Bank, you get the values out. You do this 10, 15 times, and then you only extract the values available in row number 10, right? And you pull them in this particular table, which is from column B through column F. Once you get all these values here, you can use VLOOKUP, index match, or you can even paste it yourself, right? But to make sure that I have something that I needed, I made sure that I'm referencing it in a way that even if I change, let's say, the names, if I let's say add Nifty Private Bank on top and Nifty Bank on number 3, I'll still get the same output. It's not like the output will change, right? I'm still getting the same answer. So I can change the order. I can add Nifty Metal here. Nifty Metal, and see the output is same. If I add Nifty Bank here, now the output is same. I'm getting an outperforming reading out of it. So this is completely dynamic. Whatever you enter in this particular cell is being piped to the backend. So you see this F6 is actually the input of the first index. So this F4 is 1. So whatever you enter in C9, this 1 will make sure that Nifty Private Bank pulls in here. So if I change, let's say Nifty Private Bank to Nifty Bank and Nifty Bank to Nifty Private Bank, right? Now this 1 will make sure that my first cell F is Nifty Bank. See, it's not magical. It's just the way you tie these two tabs into together. And you do that, and you have a fully automated dashboard that you can change your ROC time frame with, your weekly daily time frame with you want to see last 20 days. Cool, you do it a daily 20 days and 5 weeks. You want to sort it by a particular color. You want to see which indexes are outperforming in the last 20 days. Yeah, you can do that. It is available for the user and for the viewer to play around with it. Cool. Now let's up the stakes a bit. What if you want to do it for something like a Nifty 50? Can you do it? Well, the answer is a resounding yes. I'll just show you Nifty 50 data. Does it look any different than the indexes? I have just done the same thing 50 times, what I did 15 times for the index, right? It's just about how much you want to go. I mean, what volume you want to decide on. Do you want 500 scatter plots? You want 200, 50, 25, 15? It's completely on you, right? So here, all of the columns, if you see, I'm going till 50. So this number that you see in row number 4, this will go till 50. We reach 37 and you see we are till 51 because I wanted to add a reference as well, right? So you can keep on adding that if you need 51. Now, one change is there that you might have not noticed. Okay. For the benchmark column, it is index NSE. Okay. But for the selected security column, it's F5 and F6. What is F5 and F6? F5 is NSE colon and F6 is the script name or the ticker name. Now, what if this Adani int was not Adani int? What if this was Nifty Bank? Well, then this column, then the cell F5 would have become index NSE because it recognizes whether this is a Nifty index or just a stock on NSE. How do I do this? I'll just add a keyword check here that if Nifty underscore is available in my script name or my ticker name, then you should have index NSE, else you should have NSE. And if I just undo it now, it's Adani int, right? And if I go back to Nifty 50 data, you'll see it's now NSE because that's the way data will pipe in. If I do an index NSE and then put Adani int, it won't give me data. It will be incorrect. And I'll just show you right now. Let's say I do an index NSE and I type it out here. This will be error. It'll show error. And what does the error say? The query for the symbol index NSE Adani Enterprises returned no data. So I can't do that. So I'll just do an undo and I'll get my formula back in. So the moment you change anything, you'll get a value here. And now your Nifty 50 RSM is made. If you even have some doubts right now, let's do something, better. I have a base block RSM with me, right? This base block just shows that I have only two cells created right now. I have my benchmark, right? I have Nifty 50 and I have Reliance made in this sheet. Nothing else has been made. Let's say we want to create this sheet for, I'll copy paste this sheet, I'll duplicate it, right? And I'll hide the other sheets so that it's clean. I'll hide watch list. I'll do some, and I'll have the base blocks here. Copy of base blocks, and we'll change this to, let's say, Nifty Bank. Let's do that. Nifty Bank, Nifty Bank RSM, and this will be Nifty Blank, Nifty Bank data. Okay. Now, what do we have in Nifty Bank? Now, in Nifty Bank, we have. Oh, by the way, if you don't know how to get the list of Nifty Bank, you can go to sectoral indexes and click on Nifty Bank. You can go to this URL and you can download the index constituents from here, and you'll automatically know what scripts are available. I luckily have it saved on my end, so I'll just you know, do that instead. Yeah, this is the Nifty Bank. I'll paste it here and I'll add Nifty Bank as the reference index. So this benchmark would be, I'll go to data validation, D2, and I'll change this to, and I'll add actually Nifty Bank. Okay. So now I have Nifty Bank as the reference. Now, but you see, I'm getting errors here. Why am I getting errors here? Because my input is 13. I want to make it for 13, but I only have two names available. So I'll go to Nifty Bank data. And why is it called the base block? I'll show you why. You just copy column J through N and you paste it till the number 13 comes. Okay, so we have till number 13. Actually, let's just keep it till number 14 and I'll add Nifty 50 as well into the mix. So, and if you want to only keep it for Nifty Bank, you can delete everything, right? You can do it a hard reset. You can remove the borders. And for the bottommost one, you can just add the borders. Cool. You have your clean dashboard for Nifty Bank RSM. Isn't that exciting? Now, if you keep doing it for all the indexes available in your sheet, like Nifty Auto, Nifty Consumption, Nifty Pharma, you can derive a lot of insights from it. Like right now, as per regulations, I have to take a date that 3 months prior to this recording. So from at 14th March, I can clearly see there was only one bank outperforming, right? All the others were either underperforming, cooling off, or strengthening. But that was on a weekly level. If I check last 20 days from 14th March, what was the game then? I saw Kotak Bank, SBI, ICICI, STFC outperforming the index. If I changed my index to Nifty 50, the reference becomes Nifty 50. And Nifty Bank as an overall was a bit cooling off, right? Didn't really help. So you can actually use these visualizations to first start with the index, then go down to the constituents of the index and see which stocks are doing what. And you can use this RSM every day once the data refreshes. Now, this is not a live output. I urge you to use this at the end of the day or before you start your day in the markets. But yeah, this is for an educational perspective from learning about the markets. This is the best thing that you can get to use this. Now, we'll in the last section of this video, we'll talk about how to create this chart to ensure that you have the best output. And I'll show you how we can actually color these quadrants as well. Okay, so in this last section, what we'll do is we'll show how to create this chart, right? This is the final output. You have got everything in your data set till here. You have the RS and ROC numbers. You have understood how the back end works, how to copy paste it, how to create your own index and work around that, right? Um, and that way you will know what to do. If you have, let's say, 20 names in your watch list or 25 names in your watch list, you can totally customize an RSM for that, just like I did recently for my watch list. I only had 30 names, so I got those 30 names and I did the same. Now, but how to show it visually, right? So to do that, I'll not just show you the settings of my chart, I'll actually show you how I started with it, right? So what I'll do is I'll select from C8 till E24. I'll go to insert and I'll click a chart. I'll go to chart type. I'll go down to scatter plot. Now, my x-axis should be relative strength, right? So it should be D8, sorry, yeah, D8 to D24. So this should be D8 to D24, and my series should be E8 to E24. Well, makes sense. Okay. So I have something similar right now. Now what to do in these cases? Now we'll go to customize We'll go to horizontal axis, and I want a minimum value of zero point 0.8 to 1.2. Remember, it should be symmetrical, right? And you click on allow bounds to hide data. Yep. And whatever you did for horizontal axis, you can do it for vertical axis as well. So for vertical axis, since it's a momentum, again, doing the symmetrical rule, we'll do it minus 2.5 to plus 2.5. Okay. Then we'll go to grid lines and ticks. On the vertical axis, I think it's fine. We should have it at every, no, well, yeah, I think we should have it at every 1.25, right? It should be 1.25. Yeah, that looks better. And for the horizontal axis, I think it should be 0.10, which we, I think, have. Yes, we have it at 0.10. Cool. So now the grid lines are also there. And you see, we have something similar to our image on the right. Now the labels are not there, right? Let's get the labels as well. Labels. Yeah. We get add labels, label as C8 to C24. And in the way we would like to customize it, we can go to horizontal axis. It's labels. We can change the label's font size, label font, and where the label should come in, right? For my case, I've done label at the bottom, but you can do it label at the top as well. So axis is left point, you want to format data point, you want to do data labels on the left side, on the below side, I like below, and you can see that the data is very similar to what we have, Nifty Metal, Nifty Financial Service, and you get the exact same output if you start from your end. Now, how do you get these quadrants to be colored? I'll just actually delete this chart so that our screen is clean. Now, how do we get these quadrants to be colored? Well, that's the tricky part. That's where your creativity comes into play. There is no function or feature in Google Finance or in Google Sheets that lets you do that, at least not what I am aware about. So, what you do is you don't color the chart, you make the chart transparent and you color the cells behind it, right? Chart is transparent, you color the cells behind it, and that way you've set it in a way that you feel that it's a quadrant, and you know that within this range, above one it's a top right quadrant, below one it's a top left or a bottom right or a bottom left quadrant. That way you can visualize this RSM in your Google Sheets completely free of cost, right? I hope you liked this tutorial of how to create an RSM visualization on your end. And if you feel that this really helps, you want to give any feedback, feel free to write back in the comments. I'll be more than happy to respond it within 1 or 2 working days. And if you want to connect with me, please reach out over X or Twitter, as we used to call it, or LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to talk about this visualization and how you use it or how you would like to use it after seeing this particular tutorial. Till then, I'll be signing off and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. This content is for educational purposes only. None of the brands, products, tools, or stocks mentioned are recommendations or endorsements. The creator is not a licensed financial advisor. Viewers should conduct their own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.